Come, they told me, ba-rum-ba-bum-bum, a newborn king to see, ba-rum-ba-bum-bum. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes, lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those whom his favor rests." Man, I think about that verse and all the times we've heard it. All the Christmas Eve church services and candlelight services and being there with the whole family and man, and all singing together and, silent night and looking around, we're all holding our candles and hot wax is dripping all over our hands or sometimes we feel a little gypped. You got the plastic ones, but for a moment, it seems like time just slows down and we're able to kind of remember the reason for the season. And you look around and you're surrounded by family and man, it's a cool moment. It's something we've done a lot of times together and after church we all either go out to dinner or come home, and we got our traditions. We'd open one gift, pajamas, cool tradition, every Christmas Eve, and Mom would pick out matching and themed pajamas, and Dad would say the same thing every year. Well, it looks like Christmas is going to be a little light this year. We're not going overboard. We're not made of money. We're not this family. We're not that family. Same thing every year. And then Christmas morning, we wake up and come downstairs and look in the family room, and man, it's just filled with gifts under the tree. And yeah, man, we were blessed with great mornings. We started opening the presents, and you see, Mom, she would wrap each one so intricately and uniquely, and different wrapping paper for different stuff, and there was an order to how we had to open it. Oh, you open this first, and you open that. You guys open at the same time, and they're great memories to look back. And we start, throwing paper at each other, and before you know it, the family room is full of paper all over the floor, and you see two little wiener dogs lost in the mix. All you see is the tail wagging through Sadie and Gracie, and yeah, a good time. I remember getting a basketball, NBA, authentic basketball one year. Also, I remember getting Bad Boys too. I couldn't believe it. Mom and Dad got us a rated R movie. That was so, what? And we got some cool gifts, I think. And looking back, when you look at all, think of the gifts that we've gotten and stuff, you kind of more remember, time that we spent with each other more than the gifts and kind of the experiences we've had. And I think as we got older, too, we started doing different stuff. We went skiing and even last year we went to Green Bay, and the guys got to go to Lambeau Field, and it was such a great time. But every Christmas after we finished opening the presents, Grandma and Grandpa would come over, and we'd take them through and show them all the stuff we got, and they would get to spend that time with us. Mom would make egg bake, and there'd be Kringle and sparkling grape juice, and our stockings were full of Reese's trees, and I would eat 30 of them, hands tingling from probably pre-diabetic. But They're great times, great memories to look back on, and yeah. One year I remember we decided as a family that we weren't going to do gifts, and instead of gifts, we were going to go on a mission trip, and yeah, we ended up doing it. We went to Tijuana, Mexico, and man, that can change your whole perspective. It's like the most humbling thing. You get down there and you see like how they live. They're basically like in a garage with like, you know, they don't have much. I remember they had like an extension cord like running from house to house, and like that was how they would get power, and like each house would split off it, and like it's just so eye-opening. And to know that like we were coming from a place that we had, you know, so many presents, and yeah, it was eye-opening. And we brought them those little stuffed animals. What are they called? Oh, Beanie Babies. We ended up bringing down a bunch of Beanie Babies, and we would give it out, and that might as well have been gold to these kids. Like the look on their faces when they would get that stuff. Yeah, man, that was eye-opening. And it was cool for us too, like to be a part of a blessing. And like, I remember going to the orphanage, and like there's this language barrier, but you know, that didn't stop. You see Mom and Allie like holding these kids, and you know, no one knows a word of, you know, we can't communicate, but like that love is like universal. And Dad would juggle, and he had his own soundtrack. And there'd be like, you know, 20 kids all looking up at him, bright-eyed. Like, it was a cool thing to experience as a family. I remember like the men, they were going to build this addition on this church, and then all the women and children were going to go like to the orphanages and play with the kids. I noticed they sent me with the kids, but that's all right. But no, yeah, so they built this addition, and one night I remember like, you know, we were standing on top of the roof, me and Christopher and another guy, and you're just kind of looking out over this, like, over Tijuana, and there's these valleys, and you just kind of taking it in, and the sun setting, and it's just something I don't think I'll ever forget. And it's something cool, like, to do as a family, something we all got to do together and be a part of, and like, they wanted to honor us for, like, doing that, and, like, they wanted to thank us. And I remember how they were doing it. It's like, they got us a goat, and, you know, they, like, killed and slaughtered this goat and prepared it for us. And I remember like it was an honor. Like we went to go pick out the goat, and for some reason like I got to go and pick out this goat. It was a cool thing to be a part of. I do remember the butcher walking by, and he had his knife, and like and as he's walking past me, the knife literally drips blood, and I watch it just splatter right on my like open-toed shoes I was wearing, and just being so like out of my element. But yeah, they made us this goat stew, which also like the eyeball appeared in mine, which is like a delicacy. I don't think I ate it, but it was so cool, man. And yeah, I remember they like gave us gifts, and like they didn't have anything, but like they were so thankful, like they wanted to give us these things. And I still have, you know, something from them, and we spent New Year's there, and that was intense. Literally, they had like firework wars. I remember the kids would line up on both sides of the street, like shooting bottle rockets, flying off, and like the adults would be guns, shooting guns in the air. And like, what? Like, this is new, you know? But man, it was something cool that we got to experience together, like as a family. And yeah, we very much grew up in a Christian home. And yeah, from my like earliest memories, I remember Dad like reading the Bible to us, and us like going in his office like real early in the morning, and he would just read a chapter or two. And I don't even remember, like, you know, the Bible's complicated now, but I think we just like spending time with Dad and being a part of that, and church was a priority. It was something that, you know, every Sunday, every Wednesday and Thursday, like we were there, youth group. And it's funny, church was the same time every Sunday, but our house was so like chaotic before, like it took us as a surprise to somehow get there on time. But we would every Sunday, we all go to church together. And yeah, mom and dad, they sacrificed so that we could go to Christian schools, you know, Christian life, and we're seeing Christian, and we were taught those things too. It wasn't like we were just sent away. Like, man, I can still hear it now. Like, treat people the way you want to be treated. If we got $1 every time we heard that, yeah, treat people the way you want to be treated. And there was no swearing in our home. There was no bad music. Or dad, every time I play some rap, he'd say, "Is that honoring? Is that honoring God?" And at the time, you're like, man, why are we going to church so much? Like, why is this such a big deal? But, you know, later on in life, I would realize, like, I needed that. And, like, I had no idea what it was doing to me. But, yeah, I think that's something, like, it wasn't just talked about. It was modeled for us, too. And something dad and mom would always say is, like, actions speak louder than words. And, you know, their actions spoke louder than words. And I think the best example of that is, like, you know, foster care. And mom and dad, like, opened our home to kids who were in need. And, yeah, what a cool experience for us. You know, you had this, like, new brother or sister, and I remember, like, the excitement of, like, hearing, like, oh, we might be getting, you know, someone new coming today or tomorrow, like, you're about to have a new kid in the house. And there was always someone new, and it was cool, and they stayed with us. And I remember, like, the joy that it brought our family. And yeah, it was such a cool thing to grow up with. I remember the heartbreak, though. I remember, like, the first time one of them got adopted, and you know, like, that we would never see them again. And how tough that was, and, like, yeah, it was heartbreaking. But I think we were also taught that, like, that pain was a small price to pay, like, to give another kid, like, a second chance at life. And to, like, give someone a new opportunity. And how cool it was for us that, like, we were fulfilling our duty as a family by just, like, loving and, like, playing with these kids. Yeah, so, you know, our home was open to anyone in need. And, man, sometimes it came from bad situations. You know, you remember kids, like, coming in shy and hurt. And, man, one kid I remember, like, his head was flat because, like, his parents had never picked him up. But then, like, man, you saw how, like, mom would, like, nurture these kids to life. Like, how cool that was. And yeah, they would come alive. They'd come, you know, before you know it, they're running around. And, like, we all had so much joy from that. I remember, too, like, I didn't even know what racism was until, like, mid-high school, because, like, that didn't exist in our home. Like, I literally didn't know it was a thing, because, like, we had little Hispanic kids and black kids and Asian kids, and, like, it didn't matter. Like, if they were in need, like, they could come to our home, and it was cool. But I do remember one time, like, I realized that there was, like, separation maybe in races, and it was at church, because we went to Grace, and Grace had moved. It was, like, becoming this big church, and it had moved. And one time as a family, we decided, like, oh, we're going to go back and we're going to visit the old Grace that we used to go to. And the people that were there, now it was an all-black church. And I remember getting there, like, we all walk in, and the pastor's on stage, and, you know, he's like, now, are there any visitors here today? And, you know, there's like 250, 300 black people and black families. And there's one like white family, like we stick out as a sore thumb. And when he said that, like literally the whole congregation started laughing. And I remember mom and dad stood up and, they said, we're from Grace and we just wanted to come and see the old church. And the pastor said, oh, they sent spies to check on us. But no, it was like a funny thing, and they welcomed us and loved us. And yeah, man, they saw that, man, we were a family and that we loved them too. And like, anyways, that's how we were taught. But we were a normal family. We had our fair share of fights and arguments. And yeah, I remember one time Christopher and I, we got in a fight, a little altercation. And for some reason I had this hanger and I just smacked him like clean on the head with it. And all of a sudden blood literally starts trickling down his face, and like I knew that I had crossed the line there. Yeah, I thought he was gonna kill me, but no. And Allie, we weren't allowed to hit her, but I don't think that stopped her from hitting us. But no, we found different ways to get under her skin, I'm sure. And Christopher and I would be grounded a lot. I think we were always switching off of being grounded, who's grounded. And I can remember sitting in like the kitchen while the whole family's watching the Packer games, and like I wasn't allowed to watch, and I had to like listen to the games. And yeah, I don't think Allie was ever grounded though. She might have been the princess, never grounded. She was spoiled. If you want to know how spoiled Allie was, her first car was a convertible. All right. Now I say that jokingly. It was like a Jetta, and I'm pretty sure like the convertible part didn't work, and it had its fair share of problems. But yeah, we were a normal family. But yeah, Packers were a big part of our family. Yeah, growing up, I have a lot of cool memories actually of the Packers and just being together as a family. I remember the first time in our new house, on Michigan Boulevard. There was no furniture, and we were in Allie's room, but we had this little TV. And we all got together and we watched the Packer game. And like you could barely get it, there's static, and like we're trying to do like the bunny rabbit ears just to like see the game. But it was something cool that we experienced as a family and together. And yeah, Packers were a big part. I remember racing home from church just to try to go to the Packer game and to try to watch it. And if Pastor Jerry went long, I'd always be very upset. Yeah, one year Dad took us to go see them practice. And we got to see Brett Favre, and we got some autographs. And I remember Uncle Mike said something to one of the players as he was on the bike. He said he was like too fat for the bike or something. And like the player was actually joking backwards, and like it was just a cool moment for all of us. And yeah, Packers were a big part. Allie, she said she was a Bears fan for a little bit. She came back around though. But yeah, we have cool memories as a family together, and it makes me think of our old house. And like, I have some cool memories of that. I just remember Mom in the kitchen, and for some reason I just remember the cord on the phone, and like it being really long, and she could go talk on the phone wherever, in any room. Like the cord was that long. And yeah, I remember when Dad started his business right in the family room, and how one day you come home and there's this giant machine in there. And like, I don't understand at the time, but he's manufacturing Velcro. And yeah, I remember Mom in the backyard, our first basketball hoop, she had made this milk carton. She cut the bottom of a milk carton and nailed it to the telephone pole. And like that was the first hoop in our whole family. Yeah, it was so cool. But yeah, the business got successful. I remember Dad going to QVC, and all of us as a family, we went and watched, and we got to see Dad on stage. I just couldn't believe, like, my dad is on TV, and he's standing there with industrial strength Velcro, and he's holding it, and there's this 25-pound weight. Yeah, so we got to see the taping of QVC, and yeah, I remember moving to that new house and having that experience with the Packer party. But I remember too, like, Christopher and I would go on these bike rides. And at the old house, we could only go up and down the block because it wasn't like the best neighborhood. But when we moved to the new house, like I remember asking, like, where can I go? It's like, oh, you can go all the way down. And like that felt like we could just bike ride forever. You know, we go all the way down, and man, a lot of cool times we've had as a family. And I think a lot of the memories I've had, they were in the car. A lot of like lessons and yeah, things I've gone through. They've been like us in the car as a family. I remember like trips to Michigan. Like it always felt like we were gonna go on like the Oregon Trail, you know, like it was like this long thing we were about to go. And calling your spot in the car was like a that was a thing. It was like quicksand. Like I thought that would always be a part of my life. And like looking back, like it wasn't, but you know, I called middle seat. You got to get the right spot. But yeah, they're cool car memories. I remember like anytime family would come into town, we'd all get in the car and Dad would take us on these tours with the whole family. And, you know, he'd point out houses. Anytime someone visited, oh, that's this house. And like, that's a Frank Lloyd Wright house. And, you know, like he would take us to businesses and like, oh, they do this here. And it was just great. Like something to be able, we all spend time together in the car. And I remember music playing and Mom with her country music that none of us wanted to hear her country music. But by the end, we're all like singing Toby Keith, "I'll put a boot in." Yeah, we got a lot of cool car memories. I remember Dad, like, he would take us to the pier. He always had to go to the post office for some reason. Always going to the post office, but we'd go with him. And something cool we did, we would drive up to the pier and we would sit there and the waves would come and they would crash over on the car. It was kind of like being in a car wash. And we would just sit there for hours. And something like we enjoyed as a family. Yeah, a lot of cool times spent in the car. A lot of trips that we take, and yeah, every year I didn't realize like how fast we were growing up, you know. And man, I remember Christian being born, and it was like the focal point of our lives all changed, and like suddenly, you know, we had this new kid around. And man, I meant to say too, like after Packer games, you know, Christopher and I would play what we call offense, defense. And, you know, you get 4 downs to score a touchdown. We play against each other. And, yeah, that's a great memory I had growing up playing against him. And I was thinking how, like, frustrating it was to play against him. Because no matter what we played, he, like, never cared and, like, would nonchalantly come out there and win. And it, like, drove me to, like, try and really practice and try as hard as I could. And the funny thing is, like, as I got older and, like, by the time I did get better from the years of practice, he didn't care anyways. So, like, I would beat him and it was like, eh. But, yeah, then Christian came along and I had, like, new battles, you know. And then suddenly, somehow, I'm always losing to, like, that bloodline of Christopher, Christian. Yeah. Yeah, I remember this, like, as time went on, I kind of realized, like, maybe I was more of a lineman than a receiver. Which is okay. You know, I played for the Buccaneers. And, no, but when I think about that stuff, too, I just remember, like, man, my family, like, you guys were there for literally every game I ever played. You were there to support me and to, like, love and, like, just be a part of it. Even practices, like, man, you guys were always with me and by my side. And yeah, I never realized it, but we were growing up. Like I said, Christian came along, and I remember Christopher, like, he grew up a little quicker than the rest of us. He had to. And before we knew it, he's a roofer, and he's got his own place. And before I knew it, I was gone and off to college. And then when Allie went to college, I, like, couldn't believe it. Like, Allie is going... Like, how is she in college already? Yeah, it just went by so fast, and before you knew it, we were adults. And as an adult, I remember one day I'm at my apartment, I'm sitting at my desk, and things just did not go how I thought they would. And yeah, it was dark. I was depressed. I was in pain. I was addicted. I've been to rehabs, and there's like shame and like guilt, and there's just so like humbling. And I just couldn't believe like how I had gotten there. Yeah. It was like I had opened Pandora's box. And it was like I couldn't undo what I had done. And it felt like I had like the opposite of the Midas touch. It felt like everything I touched like got destroyed. And like everywhere I went, it was just like I left this trail of destruction, and like I pushed away the people that loved me the most and the people that were always there for me, and I didn't know how I did it. I didn't mean to do it. And yeah, but there was this moment, it was really dark and it was dangerous. And I say it was dangerous because there came acceptance. You know, like I tried getting off so many times. Like I literally tried everything I knew how to do. I tried, like I said, I'd gone to rehabs. Like I just felt so empty and not myself. And each time, like I had these lines, I would be like, okay, I know I'm doing this. I don't want to do this, but I'll never do that. Like, no. And then you cross that and you go deeper down, deeper. All right, I know I'm doing this, but like, I'll never do that. And you just cross and cross. And before you know it, like you're looking around and you just are lost completely. And I came to this moment of like acceptance of like, you know what? Like these are the cards that have been dealt. Like this is my life. Like, you know, some people get cancer. You know, some people win the lottery. You know, some people like this is just, you know, I was so envious of people that like had a career and they like knew exactly what they wanted to do, and like they ended up there, and like I just felt like, well, this is like the hand I was given. It's like I did this thing I didn't mean to, I couldn't undo, and I couldn't escape from it. And like, yeah, it was like the fight had left me too at that point. Like I just, like it really was a dangerous time. And I remember thinking like, out of all the nevers I would never do, like the only thing left was like death. And I was by myself a lot, and I remember like, yeah, I'm sitting at my desk, and I just knew like, someone's gonna find me. And I had this piece of paper and this pen, and I just started writing this note to my family and just apologizing. You know, like, so sorry, like, I don't know how this happened. Like, it was never my intention, trying to explain, like, man, please, if you could forgive me. You know, and I went person by person, and, you know, Christopher, like, how proud I was to see him, like, as a father. And to see him raised Christian, and, like, you know, Allie, she was killing it at work, and how, like, man, I knew she could run the world if she wanted to. And how Christian, how he'd been the highlight of my whole life. Like, seeing him grow up. And mom and dad, like, where do I start? Like, I can never thank you enough for everything you've done, and, like, how sorry I am that this was this way. And I remember at the end just putting, like, You know, no matter what, like if you can get anything from this like terrible situation, like just follow God. Like I know he's the answer. And I didn't say this, but I knew, like, I don't know why it didn't work for me though. Like I knew he was the way out, like he was the savior, but I just couldn't figure out like why I couldn't seem to like accept it. You know, accept his gift. And man, but I think about my family who, like, you guys never gave up on me. And like you were always there to support and love me. And Dad like kept taking me to Bible study. And we go to Culver's after, and he kept praying for me and telling me, like, you know, God's not surprised at this, Lauren. Like, he's not surprised. Like, you think he doesn't know what's happening here? You don't think he's got a plan? I remember Allie was my next door neighbor. And like she would always include me in family stuff. Like, you know, she was always good to me, even though I was like using her Wi-Fi. And she was getting notices about illegal downloads, and I knew I was like more of a burden than I was anything. And yeah, Christopher and Abby, like they were so like forgiving and loving towards me when they shouldn't have been. You know, like they could have withheld Christian from me, and like, but they didn't. And he would come over and like, you know, we'd get our malts and we'd watch our shows and hang out together. And like, I didn't know it, like that would become fuel and energy for me. Like those memories, something that I would hold on to. And I remember Christopher allowing me to come back to Speed Tech, like to work again, like bridges I had already burned. And he let me come back. And you know, I remember like he went on his break and he's walking down the hall and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I can't do this. Like, and like the testament to him as a brother, like I came up to him and just said like, listen, I need help. Like, I need help. And he was so like reassuring and there for me, like, we're gonna get through this. Like, you know, we got you. And Mom, like, did everything she could. You know, how many ER trips we went just to try to, like, find me some relief for, like, I mean, the hour she spent on the phone trying to, you know, find a place for me. And, like, she never gave up searching. And she ended up finding Teen Challenge. And, yeah, I got to see my family in action. You know, Mom, she ended up taking Onyx for me, my dog. And the whole family packed up my apartment so I didn't have anything to worry about. I could just go and just get out of there. And yeah, Dad drove me to another rehab. We made the trip to Michigan again. And I remember pulling up there and, Dad, just 5 more minutes. Like, just give me a little more time. And he, no, like, it's time to go. Like, but I knew there was like this little bit of hope. Like this little, I felt like, man, maybe this is God's way. Like maybe he's got something, you know. And it was tough. And like, that's like when the fight just began in this battle. And yeah, it was tough. It was like the fog was lifting and there was like so much guilt and shame. And like, that was a blessing and a curse. Like, you start to take responsibility for like some of the things you've done, but also like, man, you just kind of see like the damage. But man, my family never let me fall too low. Like, I would get discouraged and they would like assure me like, you're in the right place. Like, we love you, we're here for you. You know, I would get these care packages and they'd send pictures, and I remember I'd put them on my bunk bed. And every night I would get to look at them. And yeah, and the first opportunity they had, they all came to Michigan. You know, Abby came, Christopher, mom, dad, Christian, Allie. They brought Onyx. You know, mom made tacos, and we got to spend the day together. And yeah, you guys were always there for me and supported me and loved me. And it was hard being away. You see, like, man, it feels like time's passing you by. Like holidays, birthdays. There were weddings I missed, and like, yeah, just family time that I was not there. Like I said, I knew I was doing the right thing though. And like I knew I was building now. And like I wasn't destroying anymore. And I knew like I was a part of the solution. Like I was working towards the solution and no longer the problem. It was painful. But you know, like this is a different type of pain. This is like a pain that builds and like makes you stronger. Like it doesn't destroy you, but it was tough. I remember hearing about this guy, you know, while I'm away. Like I got one 15-minute phone call a week, and I would split it between everyone. And you heard about this guy, Allie's dating this new guy. Yeah, he just met the family, and like time goes on, it's getting pretty serious. Yeah, but it was hard, you know, not having any money to like get people gifts on Christmas. And I remember opening my gifts in my dorm, like alone. But the family, like you guys always had a way to make it special for me. And this is pretty cool. Like one year for Christmas, you know, you guys saw a need that I was surrounded by all these guys that didn't have any gifts or didn't have anything to open. And you guys made these gift bags for all the men at Teen Challenge. And I remember Christmas, like handing out these bags, like 60 bags full of like, you know, dad put speed wrap in there. Mom had all these like care packages, gloves, hats, towels, you know, like shirts and candy, and we handed them out, and literally every single guy came up to me and like thanked me. Yeah. And like I didn't do anything, but I got to benefit from like the love that my family showed. And you'd hear the guys would come up to you and be like, dude, I was praying that like, God, just show me someone cares. Like, show me someone cares about me on this Christmas. And then I get this gift bag from you and your family. And he was like, that's such an answer to prayer. And another guy would be like, I've never had a gift on Christmas. You know? But because of you and your family, like, I get a gift. Yeah, and that was something cool, like, I got to be a part of. Because my family. And yeah, time would go on. Like, recovery is tough. It's like some of the hardest things I've ever done. Like, it's still something I battle with, like, every day. It's a new thing. Like, you're literally fighting your flesh, like this like inner work that's happening, and like, and you take 2 steps forward and it feels like 10 steps back, and like 1 forward, and you're crawling out of this hole, and like you're finding this new balance in life. And like, yeah, sometimes you'd see change, sometimes you'd notice it, you know, people would say something to you. I remember wearing this NASA hat. This guy said to me, he's like, you work for NASA? I was like, what? You know, I just came from like being a drug addict for years, and this guy thinks I work for NASA. Like, so like I noticed there was change, but it really was hard. And there'd like be these like giant setbacks, and I'm sure it was confusing for the family. Like, one day you're at my graduation, and like the next I'm coming home and man, I got track marks again, and like I'm sick and withdrawing, and I would fight and fight and fight and get back and fight. And you find out one time isn't one time. And whatever you do, it like sucks you in deeper than you wanted to go, and you stay longer than you wanted to stay. And like, it's just, yeah, it's terrible. It's a battle. It's something that's a fight. But yeah, I remember you'd fight to get back, and then, you know, we'd be celebrating. I remember Christopher took me to a Bucks game. We got to go to a Bucks playoff game. I, like, just remember saying, like, that he was proud. And then a couple weeks later, like, getting a call that I got kicked out of Teen Challenge, and I'm, like, staying in my car, and, you know, I would try to explain, like, what's happening and why, and, like, I didn't even know. You know, like, I don't understand why. And it would start to feel like, yeah, why? Like, am I ever going to get this right? Like, it felt like I'm just delaying the inevitable. That, like, no matter what, I would inevitably lose in a big way. And yeah, you lose faith and you lose hope, and you like, you wonder, like, why do I care so, like, why do I put so much into this knowing that, like, I'm not going to be able to finish the race? Like, yeah, and you just start to hit these lows and disappointments. But then I get this call. And it's Allie and Johnny, and they got me on speakerphone, and she says, "We're getting married." Ah. And, you know, she would go on and tell me the story, and yeah, Johnny would eventually, like, ask me to stand in the wedding. And it's crazy how, like, God can use all this stuff for his good. And, like, before I knew it, like, I had another reason. And, you know, I instantly started remembering, like, all the weddings I had missed, all the family time that I wasn't there, like, all the destruction and pain that I've caused, like, the time I've spent away. And I just remember thinking, like, not this time. Like, no matter what. Like, I'm making it to this wedding. And, like, I knew I still didn't have, like, much to offer. You know, like, gift. But I thought, like, but I can honor them by, like, bringing me in my right mind and healthy and clean, and, like, whatever it takes, I'm doing that. And it was like this switch flipped inside of me, and, like, I knew it would be a fight, and I knew it would be something I would battle, but, like, I was not missing that. And I was living with my buddy at the time, and I remember getting a storage unit, and I put all my stuff in storage. Like, I just didn't want anything holding me back. Like, there wasn't going to be one thing that would, like, weigh on my mind or me, like, that I would miss that. And it was tough. I remember, like, waking up, and I started running like a madman. And I just, like, before work, I'd run just to, like, get some of that anxiety out. And after work, I'd run. I started lifting, and I spent a lot of time in the car. I remember just driving. Like, that was enough, like, energy to, like, it kind of took the edge off, but it was enough to, like, still let me relax. And I just started driving. I remember driving past Teen Challenge and just trying to, like, remember a time that I was, like, okay. And try to, like, get my strength back. And I would go to the Y, and I'd go lift, and I'd go to this city and lift at the Y, and then I'd go to that city and lift at the Y, and, you know, and then I stopped work, and, like, it was like, whatever, if I have to live in my car so that I can come back healthy, like, I'm doing that. Yeah, as long as I could get to that wedding. Like, I knew that if I just got home, Like it would be okay, like that there's peace here. You know, there's like love here. If I could just get here. Yeah, and I made it. The wedding was amazing. It really was like this once in a lifetime thing. It was so cool. Like family came in from out of town, all Allie's old co-workers and my old co-workers, and like family friends, like these worlds collided. And yeah, all the dinners, the rehearsals, the pictures, like the ceremony, like there were so many cool moments, one after the other. Like I remember being with Christopher, and right before, like everyone's all dressed up, and like my bow tie had come undone. And like, so we went and we found this like tailor, and it was just a cool moment we spent together, like tying this tie. But there were a lot of these great moments like that. And it was cool to see Allie, like how gracefully she went around the room, and like, man, she was the center of attention. And man, it was something I was so happy to like be a part of and be healthy for. Yeah, and there was like the cigar bar there, and like you see the elders of our family all outside smoking cigars, and Johnny and his friends and family, and you know, the toasts and speeches, and it was so cool. But there was this one moment that like stuck out to me over all of them, and it was the father-daughter dance. And so Dad and Allie, they start the dance, and I just look around, and we're just surrounded by family. And I just remember having this giant smile on my face, like I couldn't take off. And yeah, I'm looking around the room, and I'm looking at everyone. It was like bright in there, you know, like there was like this love. It was thick and tangible. And it was like more than a feeling. It was like, it was so cool. But I remember I became like conscious of this one thing. I like started becoming aware of something. You know, I look around the room, and I'm looking at people, and I start to notice, like, wait a minute, like, I'm not the only one with issues here. You know, as a matter of fact, like, wait a minute, like, we all got some stuff going on. You know, I start remembering, like, the conflicts, the, like, arguments, disagreements, like, this person's not getting along, they had this fight about this, like, he's dealing with addiction, he's been arrested, he's going through stuff. And it was the most freeing, amazing feeling. Because, like, you got to see, like, the resilience of our family. You know, you got to see how, like, in spite of all those things, like, we had stuck together. And, like, we had battled through all of it together. And I remember, like, the disappointments and, like, the sicknesses and the loss. You know, the deaths, you know, the people we miss and love, and grandma. And yeah, but I saw a family that, like, battled through those things together. And that, like, we had been to hell and back, but we were still here. And it had molded us and shaped us and, like, strengthened our bond. And I realized, like, bonds and family aren't formed in, like, easy times, but, like, the difficult ones. And, like, character isn't measured during good times either. Like, it's measured during bad. And yeah, and I saw a family that was, like, willing and quick to forgive each other, to, like, overlook insults and offenses and conflicts, and to move forward. Yeah, I saw a family that was willing to, like, carry each other's burdens and to love each other through. Yeah, life is dark and it's messy and it's difficult. But man, I saw that is like the exact thing that made that moment so special. And like those hard times are the exact thing that made this moment so great. And yeah, it was something I was so thankful to be a part of, and like, yeah, something I look back on very thankful, and all the memories of our childhood, and like, yeah, I'm thankful. And I'm glad that I get to like share about this, and that like you didn't have to find some note of wishes and regret and like hopes, but I can be here to like share them with you. And when I look back too on like, I'd been to rehabs, and like I tried to think of like what made this stick, like why did suddenly it work for me. And I realized that it's because I wasn't coming into this new thing. Like there wasn't this new thing that I was doing, but I was returning to a foundation that my family had laid for me, and that my family had built for me, and something they were all a part of. And I was returning to a love. And yeah. So Merry Christmas. I love you guys. And yeah, sometimes I still don't feel like I have a lot to offer, but man, I can offer you me right now, and clean and healthy and in my right mind. I don't know for how long, you can hold it back, but today, I'm there. And I look forward to many more Christmases, and yeah, I don't look forward to the hard times, but I know that when they do come, as long as we have each other, like, we're gonna be all right. I love you guys. Let me end with this here, huh? For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Love you guys. Merry Christmas, huh? I played my drum for you, ba-rum-ba-bum-bum. Me and my drum.